try to get yourself into the position, into the mentality of we win, I lose, because I think that transition can really significantly open up the way that you speak to your team, speak to your customers, speak to all those different groups, because I would assume that not only does we win, I lose refer to what you do with your team, it also converts with your customer.
100%.
Correct? Because if I feel that from you, that we're going to win together, why wouldn't I want to work with you?
I cannot afford to lose. In turn, we must win.
We win together.
It really is that simple.
From Goalpost Studios in downtown East Lansing, Michigan.
Hello and welcome to the Earn More, Keep More show,
where it's our job to give you tips, tricks, and strategies to earn more and keep more. I'm Dave McAndrews, and I believe that we should focus our marketing on messages that are all about our clients so that we can connect with them in a way that they can understand.
And I'm Matt Love, and I believe in being efficient with our companies so that we are able to keep more of what we make.
Me up beautifully, and that's why I stay plugged in and I always contribute to my community.
Matt, do you know that this is actually our third month of Earn More, Keep More show?
Incredible.
And you know what the third month is. It's third month of the year. That's March. Ooh. And that happens to house my absolute favorite holiday.
I think I know where you're going with this.
And being in East Lansing, where we're at, it's also probably the favorite holiday of the majority of the college students.
Absolutely.
They start celebrating at 7 a.m. in the morning. And then they go hard for the rest of the day, and that is St. Patty's Day. And in commemoration of St. Patty's Day, our guest today brought one of the most impressive St. Patty's Day suits that I've seen to date. So very, very nice job fitting the occasion. Much appreciation on that.
Absolutely.
So why don't you introduce our guest here?
Yeah, I could not be more excited about the guest that we have today. You know, we've been doing this for a few months. We've had great conversations, but ultimately the whole purpose of this is really to introduce our listeners to people that can be inspiring. And I've known Mitch now for about 6 or 7 months probably.
Roughly.
And I've been inspired just by the few interactions that we've had together. But, you know, when you meet someone where your mindsets are so similar, it becomes very easy to communicate with those types of people. And I am trying to just surround myself with people that inspire me. And this young man has done that for me. So not only does he have a good-looking suit on, he's got a great family who I've gotten to know over the past few months. And I'm extremely excited to introduce Mitch Howell.
Thank you, Matt. Yes.
Welcome, Mitch. I'm glad you could be here today.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Absolutely. And I see you wore one of your favorite suits, and Dave's already talked about it, but it's a beautiful green suit.
I did it far more so for the Spartans.
I love it.
The idea of St. Patty's Day, but yes.
Representing the EL. Good,
yes,
good,
that is correct.
Good move there.
East Lansing, go green.
Go white.
I love it. Well, today's conversation really is, you know, this podcast, we talk a lot about problems that people in business might have. And when people turn these problems into a process, there's no longer a problem. So when these hard things come to us, how can we react to it now so that I don't even have to think about it anymore? It's part of the process that I put in force. Moving forward, I don't even have any worry, and I know exactly the outcome that I'm going for. So Mitch, why don't you give us a quick background on what you do for a living now?
Sure. So what I actually do is I work with some of the largest companies globally to simplify and automate technology so that executives can sleep at night. That's what I really do. I could give you a more standard answer and say that I am in healthcare, multi-vertical IT sales, but yes, yes.
Yes, straight to sleep on those.
Correct.
So you deal with a number of decision makers in your day-to-day tasks.
I do, yes, yes.
And how does one find themselves in a career like that?
Great question. Right. So so first and foremost, I have a tremendous passion for technology.
Yes.
I spent the previous 8.5 years or so working for a family-owned company in which I did inside sales, where I would just, it was a numbers game, call thousands of people on a weekly basis.
What do they say? You call 100, make an appointment with 20, you sell 2?
Yes. There's always a different metric, but yes, it's always relative, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I did for a few years.
Okay.
Realized I had a little bit of a skill. I wouldn't even call it that, perhaps.
But a passion, perhaps?
Passion, yes.
That's where your desire came from to do a certain part of what you were doing at the old company?
Yes.
And
correct.
how did you translate that into, I mean, you mentioned that it was a family company too. So like in that previous role to this role, there had to be a lot of transitional conversations taking place.
There were, yes. And the previous role that I held was a technical role. So I actually sat behind a computer and built data centers.
They kept you behind the computer. You weren't out front. You weren't the face of the company.
No. So it's an interesting.
Pretty square jaw and a beard like that. Come on.
Yeah, well, I grew this just for today. So it's interesting because I started off in sales.
Yeah.
I got bored. And I said, you know what? I want to be an engineer. Mm-hmm. Didn't go to college to be an engineer. I went to school to be a recording engineer, which is what everybody behind the cameras is doing today. So I was in sales and I was relatively bored. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be an engineer. So I took a tremendous amount of different technical certifications. And then I started actually building data centers, big computer rooms on a CFD, computational fluid dynamics software.
Wait, hold on, back up. So
yes.
Basically you're playing with a computer?
Yes, I was playing with a computer.
Okay.
Yes, I was playing with very large data centers inside of a computer.
Wow.
And then manipulating how airflow can impact and cause costs to the business inside of a data center.
Wow. And so once you find the cost of that inefficient airflow,
yes,
your job then is to try and minimize that.
To minimize that, yes, exactly.
And that's where what your world was.
That's what my world was.
What caused you to go, I want to do something different?
I just realized sitting at a desk all day long from 8 to 5 was not in the wheelhouse of interest whatsoever. So I went back into outside sales at that organization.
Okay, so you make the decision to get into sales again, but I'm going to use a word that I like to use with my friends and clients. Is the word is fulfillment. I believe that we should be getting fulfillment out of what we do every day. And if we can have a career where we can get fulfillment and paid, I consider that success. So is it maybe the fulfillment aspect wasn't there when you were doing all the numbers?
That is correct. I was isolated to only working for myself, and that was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, and you couldn't really quantify the impact necessarily with what you're doing.
No, not at all.
Besides data and numbers.
And suddenly something that you had previously found dissatisfying or disinteresting all of a sudden became interesting because you're doing it for yourself as opposed to doing it for others.
Yes.
That's a good
because point. I really believe that for any entrepreneur, sales is a critical piece of the puzzle. If you can't figure out how to go out and sell your product, yourself, your company, all of those things, you're probably not executing a company in the way that you need to or you want to.
Well, and how do you believe in it, right? To your point.
Sure.
And that's the biggest piece is what makes, I think, each individual successful in whatever they're doing professionally or personally is the belief of doing something far greater than yourself.
Totally agree. That's what I call fulfillment. Exactly what you guys are describing. It's sales, it's influence, it's having a following. Okay, so let's walk through this timeline. So you make the decision when you decided to quit or not really do the numbers game as much as you were because it wasn't as satisfying. You decided to get back into the sales game. How did that transition happen? Walk me through it.
Certainly. So for me, it was a incredibly natural transition. Just being previously in sales and then going into engineering and realize I want to come back into sales. The transition was interesting and frankly, it was relatively simple. I had the burning desire to do it. I felt as though I had the knowledge base to do it. And I just went to my boss and said, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I want to get back in the saddle.
And how did that work? Did you do well? Did you see, how do you judge sales? That's data. You have to, influence more people. The business grows. So that's how you can quantify how well you're doing. How well did you do when you changed?
Well, when I changed back over to it, it was purely numbers based. So I tied success directly to numbers. Okay. Which we'll get to it, I'm sure, later on, but it's only so fulfilling, frankly. When you're only tied to numbers, you're limited to what you can learn, and you're limited to overall happiness within what you're actually doing.
Yeah. And interestingly, I think that is something that the majority of people, when they are working for, name the company, they are going to be tasked to deliver a metric, deliver those numbers, and do that on a consistent basis. It is very difficult to connect that back to fulfillment and am I doing something that I actually love? And regardless of which side you are on that equation as a listener, if you are an employer, you need to know that your employees have to be fulfilled out past their numbers, and their execution within your business has to be bigger than that very narrow scope.
Yeah.
They need to know that they're showing up and doing something that's greater than themselves.
You nailed it. Spot on.
It's such a good point because the numbers it's always a good starting point, but that doesn't tell the whole story. You know, I mean, so I think I know where you're going to head with this, but I want you to continue because you started to find your little bit more happiness in sales, but you still went back to the data-driven results. So what happened?
Right. I wanted to be able to influence, to be able to tie myself to individuals that allowed me to learn more than what I was doing there. And I think that's where I hit a wall.
Okay, that's
was great. Here's a ceiling, you're at it, where do you go? Where do you learn? That was my biggest challenge.
Wow. And this is a family company, right?
Yes.
So how did you have that conversation?
It was a tough conversation. It was a very tough.
I'm sure.
So
awkward.
Yes. Yeah. It was a tough conversation, and it was difficult to verbalize how you feel. I think we've talked about it. We talked about it off air. Is when the mindset isn't aligned with others, it's challenging. It's very challenging to have that conversation, to be able to express where you believe the path is leading you and where you're going when others just aren't following the same path. So for me, it was a significant challenge to say, hey, Dad, I'm bored. I have a greater vision. I'm going to move on. And that was very difficult to do, especially when, my dad went from, very, very, very poor, and he led a very successful sales career. Yeah. And he really opened the business for the family.
Yeah. So he provided you the opportunity.
He did. He provided me the opportunity. He provided me the foundation of, I think, a lot of the different principles I'm applying today were from my father, but it was still a very difficult transition.
This is hard to talk about because I want to talk about family too, but if you think about it as a parent's role, what more could you ask for to give your child other than the platform to succeed at what they're supposed to succeed at? I mean, that's kind of like what they did.
Right. 100%. That's exactly what they did.
Mm-hmm. So you leave the family company and you landed in this immediately into the role you're in now, or was there a little bit
No,
of
there's
wandering?
a transition phase. Okay. Yes. And it's an interesting process.
And usually there is too, you know what I mean?
Yes.
When anybody goes through a career change or a lifestyle change because they want something more, there's going to be this transitional phase. And man, that's when all the demons come in too. That's when all the naysayers come in at night and creep on me. And I start thinking, gosh, am I doing it right? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing enough? That's when I start to question everything. But so you had a little transition phase.
There was, and there was a moment, probably about a month and a half, where, and I remember it vividly, like it happened yesterday, where I was speaking with my wife. I'm like, I think I'm going to make this change. And then 2 weeks later, no, I'm not. Right? Because it's as people, as humans, as creatures on this earth, we just quickly want to crawl back to what we believe to be comfortable. Yeah. Right? Our safety net. Go right back into it.
Gosh, I could totally relate to this.
And I was very conflicted. But once I decided, you know what, I had this initial thought, this vision for a reason. Let's roll with it. Let's do it. And oh, by the way,
you owe it to yourself to do it.
Right. And oh, by the way, this was right when my wife and I were building our first house. So it's timed out really well. So I made the jump. Spoke to a few different organizations. I landed with my current employer, Cortex Services. And I was back to purely individual contributor, outside sales. Nothing was given to me, no leads, nothing. Go out and grind.
Did you have
eat what you kill?
Go ahead.
Eat what you kill.
Eat what you kill.
That's correct.
Did you have any sort of base salary?
I did.
Okay, so that helps. That definitely
helps. It does, but it was minimal.
As it probably should be in those type of situations.
100%. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
This is such a capitalist idea. I love it, by the way. I love the capitalist ideas because those who want to succeed and put the effort into succeeding, chances are they're going to be the ones to do it first. And here is a guy that has an opportunity, but he sees opportunity elsewhere that's more in line with what he wants to do. The hardest, we talk about a problem. Here's the problem that so many listeners might be in right now. You have a job or a career that you're good at, but you're meant for something better. Maybe the word better is wrong. The better is subjective, but something different where you can get more fulfillment. It could be playing music for a living. It could be starting a company. It could be anything. Everybody is a unique individual. But what I believe And what Mitch embodies is that following what you truly want to do is what we are on earth to do. That's the biggest value we can contribute to society, to our family, to our loved ones, to everyone in the world, is to follow what we believe we should be doing.
And step one to that is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right.
Right. You really have to find a position. If anybody is going to try to achieve anything greater than just show up, do a 9-to-5 job, they have to be very comfortable with going into situations where not everything's mapped out, not everything feels easy, not everything, and making the decision to go and to do that, the thing that's hard. It's hard because not everybody else is already doing it. If it was easy, everybody'd do it. And the rewards come to the people who are willing to do things that not everybody else are doing.
I totally agree. I believe this too. There is more opportunity in minimizing loss, whatever aspect, whether it's a business, family, relationships. If we just control the loss, we will have a higher rate of return in the future. So if we just, and by spending every single day doing something that you know you're not meant to do, you're creating massive losses.
Massive loss. You can't even quantify the word loss in those instances. So I remember when I was going through the transition, back to your point, Dave, you nailed it, right? Feeling uncomfortable. I was coaching 3 soccer teams. I was working the existing job that I had.
I knew I liked him.
I was in it, yes.
We haven't even gotten into the soccer
No?
stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
I knew I liked this guy.
Well, I still
All
play
right.
on 3 teams. So I was coaching soccer, playing in a band, and I made the conscious decision to say, you know what? Done coaching soccer, all those relationships that I built with phenomenal people over the course of 7 years, the fantastic brothers I had playing music in a really cool rock alternative band, just said, you know what, guys, I've got to focus on what I believe to be is my path, and let's roll with it. And it was, again, it was very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting about it,
they probably didn't want you to leave, right? You're their buddy, jamming out with them. They don't want you to take off.
But what was interesting to me through that process is I never felt bad, and I don't want that to sound cold. Mm-hmm. I never felt bad, and I never really second guessed it. I just did it.
I think that's really big. I'm a Libra, so any Libras listening, we have this stupid tendency to try and make everybody happy. It's horrible. It's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, because the best way, which was what I truly believe here, is to make the world the happiest. I have to make myself happy first. And for you to be able to look at your boys and your soccer partners and your bandmates and say, guys, I got to do this for myself now. That is so hard to do for so many people. To the fact that to do it without looking back and questioning that, to me, is what sets a lot of people apart. I think that's where the big value comes in. Absolutely.
And to be able to do it without kind of an external shove, because a lot of people, they need kind of an external shove, a life event, something big to happen in order to make that type of decision. There has to be something in their lives that makes them go, okay, I'm going this direction.
Right.
But to do it by just purely being able to look at, okay, everything's pretty good. Like, it's okay. But now it's a matter of how do you make it better? How do you get that situation to be the type of situation you want to show up to every day? And because if you're going to be grinding, you need to be grinding for a reason that you can believe in.
Right. You nailed it. And the opposite of what you just said is when there isn't that pivotal moment where you are shoved and you do it, people call you crazy.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That's the comfortable word that comes to us is
why
everything
would
seemed great.
you do that?
Why would they do that?
How many times in my life you get called crazy and it's like, but I know that this can work. And then I realize I'm trying to convince people that I don't need to convince.
Right.
And that's another, point of tension where I'm creating a problem that probably shouldn't exist. And as Mitch was explaining this, he looked over so matter-of-factly. He goes, that's what I did. Yep. And he's not even regretting it now. Do you regret it now?
Absolutely not.
So tell me about how the move has gone since then. How long ago was this? 2, 3, 4 years ago?
Yes, 3 years and 1 month.
Wow, but who's counting?
No, nobody's counting. Yes, it has gone very well. The opportunity that has been presented to me within the organization I work with now is I get to work with people who are far smarter than me, who have significant influence, significant ability to completely project me over and beyond what I, with my own superpowers, we all have superpowers, are capable of doing by ourselves. And I would have never had that opportunity if I wouldn't have made the change.
Wow.
And so it's going very well.
So it's the importance too of eventually you got to build a team around you that believes what you believe. But
Correct.
the hardest part, which is what we're talking about here, is that moment when you realize you have to make the change, to do it without looking back. And then once you get there, we talk about how to build another team around what that belief actually is. So
Right.
the team that you have behind you right now is really allowing you to just explode at your.
Well, we win, I lose.
Yeah, explain that idea. We talked about this a little earlier too. The idea of we win, I lose. What do you
It's
mean
my
by
number
that?
one principle. It's how I approach everything that I do. We win or I lose.
Perfect.
It's that black and white.
There's no in between.
There's no in between.
Is that how your wife got the Range Rover?
We win.
We win.
We win.
Yes, we win.
Well, otherwise, she wouldn't have had the Range Rover, and you would have lost.
And you would have definitely lost.
Yes, I would have lost.
I'd love it. There's not much in between there. It doesn't really allow for any misinterpretation.
Yeah, a couple of things that just from what you had said about the environment that you're in. And this is something that I believe a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with greatly. So there are really two types of entrepreneurs in the world, in my opinion. And that is the folks who walk into the room and feel the need to be the smartest in the room and show everybody that they are the smartest and that they are the best. And I really believe that over the course of really the last 20 years, so my professional life, the folks who in the 90s were top of the heap, it was a very much a mentality of look at me, look what I'm doing.
Right.
Try to figure out how to be the best. The idea of having the locker in the right place at the country club. And then folks from, I think, our generation, a lot of us, I mean, there's still those of us who do that are stuck in that mentality, who are trying to show out above what they actually are. But I really believe that there's been a little bit of a shift where we understand that all of those trappings of success, all of those things are not real. They're not valuable.
Right.
And you can have all of those things, but if you don't have that sense of fulfillment, you aren't showing up to work doing something that you love, you're just really putting on a show for everybody else. And it's not for your benefit, it's for their benefit. And I think that's huge, to be able to surround yourself with a team. And I always say this, I want to hire people that are better than me.
Right.
Because if I hire people that are better than me, they're going to make me look awesome.
Nailed it.
And if I am so worried about someone looking better than me within my own organization or whatever else, that's my loss.
Right.
Oh, I hope some people come to mind. I hope they listen to this episode. You're speaking right to them, by the way, because it is so true.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people that oppress people that are going to be successful just to make them still look like they're going to be.
And honestly, I wish this could be more of a conversation even between the generations, where you have, if you are 60, 65 right now and you were brought up in that culture, understand that it's a little bit of a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the stuff that the folks before you were striving for and the Mad Men lifestyle and mentality, it's bullshit.
It is.
It really is. And being able to build the people around you, the difference between a real leader and just someone who has power and authority based on their position is the willingness to build the people around them. You have to be willing to help them move forward in their lives. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're trying to hold back on them so that you look better and they can build you up, then you're really shortchanging yourself and you're leaving an empty legacy.
Completely. I mean, Mitch, talk for a minute about the team that's now being built around you. Now, here's the crazy thing. So for everybody listening, you want to do something different. No one's going to give you what you call that push.
Yes. Yep.
No one's going to push you to go do it. You have to make the change. That's the hardest thing to do. everyone listening is in charge of their future. Make the change. You're going to go through a rough patch, and then once you start to land on your feet, if you have the attitude of we win or I lose, we includes everyone around you. And so, Mitch, talk about how that we win mentality has worked in your career at the new company with the team that you've built.
Sure. And I just want to comment on one thing you said, Dave, because it resonates with me incredibly deeply, and that is all about if you don't have the passion of doing what you want, but you just want to look good, right? That's a huge issue. And I can't tell you how many times everybody here has social media, right? So when you go on Facebook or Instagram and somebody posts it's Monday.
Oh my gosh.
There's nothing that lights a fire inside my body more than when I see it's the Monday, or Friday, almost the weekend.
Almost the weekend.
Almost the weekend. Those two things.
Or Sunday. God, tomorrow's Monday morning.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And it ties directly to what you were saying, Dave. And it's a mentality issue.
But see, here's the crazy part. Yeah. Who controls that?
You. And
the person who writes the dumb message.
Everybody wants to be decisive and say they're decisive, but nobody is willing to make the decision.
Yep. That's a good thing. We need a button for power bombs. That was a power bomb. Everyone wants to be decisive. No one has the power to make the decision. What was it?
Everybody wants to be decisive. Everyone says they're decisive, but nobody wants to make the decision.
Nobody wants to make the decision.
It's not that they don't want to make the decision. They're afraid of the responsibility and the ramifications of the decision.
Correct.
And if you're afraid, and this is why people are so leery to make choices. And we've talked about this on the podcast before on good decision, bad decision. The worst decision is generally no decision.
Because that's still a decision.
Right. It's a decision. And then we get into that entropy idea, the getting stuck, and the ability to make a decision and being willing to live with the ramifications.
Correct.
I mean, the decision that you made to leave your family company, that has a lot of ramifications that come with it. But if you're not in a position that you're able to do what you need to be doing in order to have the type of career and life and fulfillment, those types of things, that would have been a decision that worked against your own self-interest.
Correct. You know what my favorite quote is?
I want to hear this.
Everybody wants to laugh when I tell them this. Just do it. Nike. It's the greatest quote. It genuinely is the greatest quote.
Why?
Now, the whole backstory of it is, we won't go into that, about 1976 murder.
Yeah, tell the story.
Gosh, I'm trying to remember what his name is, but do you guys know the story about how the quote came about from Nike? So it was, I believe it was Dan Gilmore or something Gilmore,
okay.
And he was
Happy Gilmore?
Yes, no, not Happy Gilmore.
That would have made for a way better story if it was Happy Gilmore.
Mass murder in 1976, and had been about 20 years since the last person went on death row. He stood up at death row in front of everybody and said, do you have any final words? And his response was, let's do it. And that's where Nike pulled that quote from. Just do it.
That's heavy.
Yes.
That was his last words. Let's do this.
That makes Nike a little bit more depressing.
It does. It does. Yes. So let's pretend like that backstory doesn't exist. It's interesting.
I love the backstory.
It's a great quote.
You have to understand why it is the way that it is, because it's so powerful, so simple. But I think the real power of what you're talking about is being able to make a decision and then living with it, good or bad. Because if it's really bad, it's not the end of the world. Most of the time, we just make a different decision and change it.
Well, how do you learn?
You can't learn until you are submerged in the crappy decision that you made.
Correct.
That's what's going to get you to learn.
Here's the takeaway.
So with that idea, that idea of making decisions, and something that I think could really help our audience start making more decisions, and it's the idea of small bets. If you're willing to make small decisions and just do it, just make that decision, make that change, but start with something small.
Yeah.
You know, we talked in the endurance episode, we talked about buy that pair of shoes, you know, in order to get that momentum. But you have to make small bets in order to get momentum, in order to make it so that when it comes time and you're in a position of authority and now you're running a company or you're doing whatever that looks like for you, now when a true big decision comes in, it does not feel as mountainous as it would have before, because of the fact that you have made the previous 5,000 decisions and maybe 3,500 of them have worked out.
Yep.
You've learned on the ones that didn't work out that none of those were game enders. And now you can continue to make those bigger and bigger decisions. And so make those small bets and make sure that you're making them consistently. Because if you're consistently making small bets, you have the opportunity to really change the way that you start thinking and make that decision process.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Once again, I love the concept of we win, I lose, because I think that speaks to everybody. And I really want the folks in the audience to go away with this concept of we win, I lose. If you take that home with you and internalize that, and when you're going into a conversation that can be a little bit, seems like a zero-sum game, seems like there's only going to be one winner, there's only going to be one way this goes out where everybody walks away happy. Try to get yourself into the position, into the mentality of we win, I lose, because I think that transition can really significantly open up the way that you speak to your team, speak to your customers, speak to all those different groups. Because I would assume that not only does we win, I lose refer to what you do with your team, it also converts with your customer.
100%.
Correct? Because if I feel that from you, that we're going to win together, why wouldn't I want to work with you?
I cannot afford to lose. In turn, we must win.
We win together.
It really is that simple.
And I think the hashtag
Let's
for the
do
week.
it, bro.
Hashtag
Hashtags.
we
We got a
win.
new hashtag for the week.
We win. That's the pound or hashtag symbol, depending on how old you are. So we win. And I'd love to see a few
Here's stories.
posts
Give
going out
examples of a hashtag we win. When did you have some sort of compromise or you wanted to get something done? Maybe it's a sale with your business. Maybe it's something with your spouse or your significant other where you know what? We win this, and then describe what happened. So then hashtag we win.
I believe you're expecting something,
I am.
correct? Yes.
I'm expecting a daughter here soon.
Yes. Yeah. Hashtag we win.
Hashtag we win. We both won that one. All right, this is a really good episode. We're actually running out of time. We need to probably cut this one short so that we can continue to get the rest of the story from Mitch and how he's used these principles with not only business but with family. And so let's see if we can cut this one short. We'll keep Mitch around for the next episode so we can talk to him, and we'll dive even more into all these principles.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Drop the mic.
I'm Matt Love,
And I'm Dave McAndrews,
and we are downtown New York City today on a beautiful sunny day.
bringing you the latest in how to earn more and keep more.
And if you're a business owner like us, you're interested in growing your business. There's only two ways to make that happen. Either you increase your sales or you reduce the cost that you had to incur to make those sales.
Click below or go to earnmorekeepmore.show.
This has been a Goalpost production.
That's it for us. We are your hosts, Dave McAndrews and Matt Love. Our executive producer and creative guru is Jennifer McKinstry. Our social media director is Mark Farnes. And a very special thank you to Lansing's own Jose Moore for providing the music.
Thanks for listening.